I could run a service. I built an Anglican church near Namagunga, place called Kayanja. I built it. I was in high school. Every Friday I could go home to help my dad. He was a parish priest of Namataba Church of Uganda. In fact, my father, Archbishop Kazimba Mugaru, went through my father's hands. He even talks about it. So my dad could teach us how to run the Anglican service. So I didn't have to go to a theological school. I learned from him. I could bury the dead. So it was simple. Whenever he could not go, whether bayabyange nyimbe
to the vigils,
you know, last rites, reading the last rites. So my dad told me what to do, what to preach,
how to put a hair in place. I began putting hairs in place when I was 15.
Because they want the reverend to come in 20 places. They are doing
the last
so
rites.
He could send me. Nessa place ya white, his place white. Nga emikono gikwatira wano nga nkyambala bwenti nga nkisiza wano bwekiti kireme kugwa. I was so skinny.
Nali mutono ng'ekyambalo kinene so.
And I could go.
Nga ngenda ne mukiikirira.
At first they say naye kana akola ki.
When you arrive they wonder what you're going to do.
But when I started going with ante nga nanagira no.
I was stammering back then.
But everybody was impressed.
Naye nga bwe mmala oweereza buli omu nga kimusanyusa.
Because I had learned.
Kuba nali njize.
So singa bonna abaawule n'ababulizi baali bafudde nali ngenda kufuuka bishop. My point is you can learn from others. The problem is sometimes education brings pride that you don't want to learn. That's why the most educated people are the most poor people. They're the most poor people because they remain aloof. They remain aloof. They cannot adapt or learn. And I pray that pastors, you will learn from Balalo.
Those herdsmen.
Not Abakulu, but these ones, these little ones.
When you go and they're doing their herdsmen work, you learn from them, the young ones.
Those young ones. You find a young girl rearing cows. 100 of them with a stick, and she takes them out and brings them back. Pastor,
they give you a congregation of 100 people. You only have 20 people in the congregation.
So their skills. Jesus is my shepherd. You have to learn these skills. You have to learn these skills. Watch, see. Otherwise you will lose. We lose members in church because we have not learned skills of shepherds. Now here, most of you who graduated here, you are from Miracle Center. So there are certain things I want to share with you briefly. Why did we start the Bible College? Because of that issue. Now in 886, we were threatened to be banned. In fact, to me, that's where from that moment I started trusting President Museveni. In 1986. Because all religion, let me give you a background. In 1962 we got independence. In 1966 we had a crisis. The Mukago between UPC and Kabaka Yeka broke. So Obote destroyed everything that was in Uganda in terms of institutional leadership. He abolished all the kings. He took the capital that these kingdoms had. Because every kingdom, Busoga, Bunyoro, Toro, Buganda, Ankole, they were formidable institutions that had lasted for 500 years. 500 years or more. So they had their system of taxation, of growth, of development, of adoption. Like here in Buganda, Chintu may have been a Muganda, but because of adoption, because kingdoms were doing expansion, so they could terrorize their citizens, and the citizens were tired of paying taxes, so they could fly into another kingdom. So when they come to another kingdom, if you're a good king and a wise king, you adopt them and you put them in clans. And you put them in a class and you expand your kingdom. Because population growth is another one of the ways you grow. You grow by population. So Uganda was very skilled at that. They could even raid Wankole, raid Bunyoro, even still counties. And they could bring them back here. In fact, the issue of polygamy is not an African thing. It was a methodology used to attack and grab women so that you bring them to grow this clan. So they could raid Bunyoro and steal women. And then one man, if there was 20 women with no men, so they could give you, keep those 5, keep those 6, so that they can grow in number, so that you have a bigger army. So most people came. That's why in Buganda, you find Chinyolo, Chitoro. You ask yourself, why do they have Chitoro? And when you go to Bunyoro, there's no Chiganda. Because they didn't know that kind of scheme. So people, when they run there, they say settle there. You settle there. You settle there. That's why in Buganda, you find people who are too dark, people who are light, people who are tall, and others are short. Because it was amalgamation of people. And when they came here, they gave them names. They changed their names. Now you're in this clan. 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 To stop inbreeding. And by stopping inbreeding, they were stopping diseases. So people could live longer because of stopping inbreeding. So every clan was very strong. And they were working. But it was not that they were. So organization was very good. But when Obote came to power in 66, he destroyed all that. He destroyed the capital. Everything was mismanaged. 1971, Amin comes to power and destroys whatever Obote had built. And all the capital is stolen. 1979, the Tanzanian come to Uganda to liberate, but everything was looted in 79. Then the war in Luwero, 1981 to 86, that also destroyed a lot. So Uganda began to rebuild. Reach a stage where we are. It has been an effort, of deliberate effort, of civil society, of the church, of government, of businessmen for 40 years. For example, locally, in 1986, we were 7 million. In 2026, we are 7 million. We were 7,000. 7,000. So in 40 years, we have grown to 7 million. Come on, somebody, clap your hands to Jesus. 100% or more. Now what does that tell you? 1,000 times. The children of Israel went to Egypt when they were 70. 430 years. They came out when they were 2 million. So if they were growing at Uganda church rate, the Spirit-filled church, they would have grown into 200 million. 200. So winning Canaan would have been easy. But they grew slow because of slavery. Child of God, when you don't have freedom, you cannot grow. The church in Uganda has grown because we had the freedom of worship in 40 years. No, thank you for your love and enthusiasm. We have grown.
Somebody clap your hands.
You'll be clapping your hands.
Stand up and clap your hands.
So this has nothing to do with favoritism. This is history. This is our history. So you need to understand as a leader where you've come from. And it was able because of growth. Our growth is because of freedom. We could preach anywhere. We could minister anywhere. We could plant churches. We could minister unhampered. But in 1973, Amin banned the churches. Closed all the Pentecostal churches. He only allowed 4 churches. So when the Tanzanian came, they liberated Uganda, but they never freed it. Amin made a decree, which was followed by religion and subsequent governments. So, subsequent government. So the problem we ended up with, that nobody could listen to us. So between 1981 and 85, we made a deliberate effort
to preach crazily.
But not just to go preach. No. We preached open fellowship. We preached open fellowship. We preached open fellowship.
When you get saved today,
within 3 days, you are an evangelist. Because we knew without numbers, we are going to be defeated. So you are saved for 5 weeks. You are now a pastor. And most people didn't know what to preach. In the whole year, you could only preach Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Muzimu genda,
demons leave,
and demons could leave. In fact, our preaching, our services lasted from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a Sunday. Not because the preacher had a lot to say. Today we have preachers who are talking too much and less demonstration. But in our days, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave.
You focus on that for 6 months.
But the demonstration of the power of God was incredible. So what drew people from cathedrals to come in Papyrus Church? Not because we were learned, we were educated. Not because we had money. People were coming into the dust. Why? Because they were being set free. They were being delivered. That's one of the pictures when you were up there. That's me. You can't believe it, but that's me. The floor is dust. The floor is dust. Now it's no longer dust. See, we were reaching out to people. If you could see where people are seated on the floor. And why were they living big churches? Because the Lord was real. Their needs were being met. The blind were seeing. The deaf. Let me tell you, do not study and educated and then you forget the power of God. That's the most dangerous thing you're going to enter into. You'll be irrelevant tomorrow without the power of God. So by the churches, then 86 Uganda is liberated by NRA, NRM, and we were caught in a meeting. I've been telling you the story. The president decided, President Museveni said, no, I'm not banning Balokole. Leave the Balokole alone. That was the greatest victory. That's when I realized President Museveni was not just a political man. No, he had been sent by God to free this country from the stronghold. Not that I knew him, not that because I was coming from Ankole, or because I didn't know the man, but I knew him by principle. That principle of allowing people to have their freedom, to me that was fundamental. And then I knew we needed to do something. So I sent 2 young people. And you young people who are learning, please, the church of God is calling you in order to further the kingdom. And so I took 2 young people, a young lady and a young man, and I sent them to Nigeria at Benson Hosa Bible College. And I said, go learn for 2 years, come back and help us start a Bible college. We need to train leaders, because without an army without discipline, leaders without learning, you're going to collapse. These kingdoms I've talked about. If you go to Bunyoro, you will go where Kabalega was training his army. When the British were fighting him, he hid himself deep there. And he dug his omweso, his chessboard on the ground. It's still there. And he cut stones so he could play omweso. And omweso was helping him to negotiate. Also, it helps him to calculate. You see, omweso is not just okubo. People are saying this one is playing chess. No, it teaches you how to count. Teaches you to know what you have. And how are you going to move and take over from the other person. The art of negotiation. For the Bazungu, they use the chessboard. For us Africans, omweso. But because people are not learned, they just destroy everything they have. So Kabalega used omweso to fight the British and to train his army to think. So African, here in Uganda we have alphabetical order. We have alphabetical. The ABCD is for the white. Here we have our own alphabet from which you create words. So when I realized that, we sent the young people to go. They came back after 2 years. So we started the Bible college in that church like that. I recruited about 32 students who will learn and go better. Then a chaos started. The young man left. Then marriage came. The young lady went married. Nobody was to teach Bible college. So for 3 years, we shut down. I was traveling too much. I was trying to connect I
had connected with VBI in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Roberts University, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was looking for classes we can learn. Elective classes that could be able to help us. Something that would have been for 2 years, we break it to 3 years, 3 months. And I was bringing in teachers. I was bringing in preachers. Stay for 2 weeks to teach the class. But because they were not there, 3 years later, Pastor Eddie had joined us from Budo, and Pastor Makoko from Nabumali. They were graduating from Makerere. They were members here. When they graduated, I said, now you forget about doing whatever you want to do. Off to London. Go and learn. Come back. And we do the Bible college. It was intentional. I'm so grateful that this week alone, over 1,500 graduates have graduated. Because we knew that if we don't purposely, seriously look at this and begin to build a foundation of the Church of Jesus Christ, whereby the gates of hell cannot prevail, we are not going to survive. We will be weaker, we will be undermined, we will be defeated. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. They don't perish because they don't pray. They don't perish because they don't know how to speak in tongues. Knowledge is a very component. The Bible is not a book. The Bible is 66 books. It's a library.